I'm Joy Morris, inviting you to listen to true stories of the Wild West, hosted by C.R. King, a production of RK Enterprises.
Hello everyone, C.R. King here. Today we're going to talk about General Rosecrans. So, if you're ready, let's go. Rosecrans entered West Point in 1838, and during this time, they gave him a nickname, and it stuck with him for the rest of his life, Rosie. In 1842, he graduated fifth in the class of 56 from West Point. He actually finished ahead of several generals, including James Longstreet. Rosecrans' military career in the beginning was unremarkable. After assisting with the construction of coastal defense in Virginia, he was transferred back to West Point, where he taught multiple subjects. That was from 1843 to 1847. In 51, he was passed over for the job at the Virginia Military Institute in favor of Stonewall Jackson. He was in poor health by 1854, and he resigned his position in the Army. His rank was first lieutenant. Rosecrans earned several patents during his time that he was not in the service. He actually developed kerosene. That was much later than this time, but it was a short time in Austin, Nevada, a silver mining town, where they had to have lamps and candles to light up their rooms or their tents. He invented kerosene. Instead of using animal fat, which was more dangerous, more difficult well, you had to kill animals to get the fat. Not as bright as kerosene. It was a big deal. Civil War broke out, and he rejoined the Army as a colonel of the 23rd Ohio Infantry. Soon, he became a general, brigadier general of the regular Army. He would join up with Magellan, C-H-E-L-L-C, General Magellan, who was his boss, and were successful against the Confederates in the western part of Virginia. Their success made it possible for the formation of the state of West Virginia. Magellan took command of the Army of the Potomac. Rosecrans was given command of the Union forces in that region. Rosecrans was an effective commander, personally courageous, popular with his men, but at times difficult to get along with. He was often testy. He, at times, deplorably indiscreet, and he paid close attention to all details. That was in his favor, by the way. In 1862, he was transferred to the Western Theater that was in siege with the Mississippi town of Corinth. Also, a month later, after they fell, the town of Lucca, also a Mississippian town. When the town fell, instead of going after the retreating Confederate army, Rosecrans did not. His whole thing was gathering territory. Grant was not happy with him for that. Grant needed to destroy the Confederate army if they were to win. What's next in line for Mr. Rosecrans? He was appointed commander of the Army of the Cumberland. As its commander, he fought Braxton Bragg of the Army of the Tennessee to a standstill at the Battle of Stones River. That lasted 3 days from December 31, and to January 2 of 63. Rosecrans' victory was sorely needed, and it was a bright spot at that time for the Union cause. Despite heavy pressure from President Lincoln, Rosecrans refrained from advancing for the next 6 months, finally, in late June, he advanced a well-executed offense against the Confederates, who had to abandon the Chattanooga, Tennessee town or city. They retreated to Georgia. Nonetheless, Bragg's army was still intact because Rosecrans again focused on capturing territory rather than destroying the enemy forces. On September 19th and 20th, Bragg struck back. One of the few battles in which the Union was outnumbered, the Confederate Army of Tennessee delivered a crushing blow to the Army of the Cumberland, sending Roosevelt fleeing back to Chattanooga, where Federal forces were quickly besieged. After the disaster at Chickamauga, Grant, recently promoted to overall commander of the Union forces of the West, relieved Rosecrans of his command, replacing him with Major George Thomas. On his way to Chattanooga to assess the situation, Grant encountered Rosecrans, who was on his way back north. Now, in this encounter, Grant wrote that they held a brief interview. I'll quote this. We held a brief interview in which he described very clearly the situation at Chattanooga and made some excellent suggestions as to what should be done. My only wonder was that he did not carry them out. End of quote. Rosecrans, again, never chased the armies away. He got the land. What happened here? Rosecrans lost his job, and he remained bitter towards Grant for the rest of his life. He wrote a letter to his friend James Garfield, who would become president, that he was upset over it, and that this has never happened before in any war, and it would come back one day, basically to bite him in the back, bite him in the ass. In 1867, he resigned his commission in the Army. A year later, he was appointed by President Andrew Johnson as the United States Minister to Mexico and served that position for a year. Rosecrans spent much of his post-war life in California. In 1880, he was elected to the state Congress as a Democrat. He represented California's 1st District for 2 terms, from 81 to 85. During this time, in the House, he opposed a bill providing a pension to his old rival, Ulysses S. Grant. He was override. Grant got his pension. Rosecrans died on March 11th, 1898. He was initially buried at Rosedale Cemetery in Los Angeles, and there's a big monument to him there. I have a picture of it somewhere. And sometime 1902 or 1908, his body was reburied in Arlington National Cemetery. In 1869, Rosecrans purchased Rancho San Pedro in the Los Angeles Basin. In February of 98, he learned of one of his favorite grandchildren, Rosecrans Toole, spelled Toole, the son of Lily, and the father was Joseph Kip Toole, who was the first governor of Montana. He died of diphtheria. General Rosecrans was seized with grief. His health failed, and he died on March 11th, 1898, at Rancho Redondo. His casket lied in state in the Los Angeles City Hall, first casket to ever lie in state in Los Angeles City Hall. And the casket was covered by the headquarters flag that flew over Stones River and Chickamauga battlefields. In 1908, I said this already, his remains were interred in Arlington National Cemetery. Now, all this said, William Rosecrans has a name of an avenue named after him, Rosecrans. It is a major thoroughfare for the city of LA and into the county of the Orange County. The whole total length is 27.5 miles. Again, it is a major street. Getting back to Chickamauga, it is written, and I've read it many times, that his subordinates sabotaged him in that battle. They didn't like him, they didn't want him, they lied about him, and he lost his job. And he became a bitter man about what happened to him. Okay, everybody, thank you for your time. I appreciate you here. I'm slowing down on podcasts because I have too many other things I have to do. And everything gets in the way. So hopefully we'll talk about Fort Gibson before long. Take care. C.R. King signing off. And be safe, everybody. Be safe.
True stories of the Old West.